You're listening to Chicagoland's finest podcast, featuring the Gorehound.
Well, because I'm bringing us in.
Jen.
I mean, it's horrifying because, you know.
Cousin Charles. And Nick.
I know. I thought I was going to screw it up again.
It's time for the all-new Culture Cast, starting now.
I'm the Gorehound.
And I'm Jen.
And we are the all-new Culture Cast, back for the latest edition. Jen, what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about a subject very near and dear to my heart, which is murder podcasts, and specifically, a new parody murder podcast that is out there. That is, look, I don't want to give you any spoilers, but obviously, I have a lot of feels about it.
We are talking about it's a podcast about a podcast.
I know. Will this be our second or third?
Oh my gosh, we seem to be doing this so frequently. And, you know, that's just the natural evolution, or natural selection, I don't know which word, of this podcast. We are just, you know, we like to talk about podcasts because we are the greatest podcast out there. And I also want to hear about your thoughts on the latest Oscar craze.
Of course.
But
what have you been watching?
I will start us off.
Fantastic.
I probably shouldn't even be podcasting right now because I have been so busy this week, just with overtime and just a whole bunch of new projects and whatnot. So I haven't really been doing a whole lot. I'll mention two things. I watched Darkest Hour, the popular one.
Yeah.
And it was surprisingly. I didn't fall asleep during it. I was
that's crazy, because I thought it was super boring.
I was expecting to fall asleep, and I kind of anticipated. I was like, I'm not going to fall asleep during this. I'm just going to get really comfortable and brush my teeth before I watch this movie. But yeah, I was surprised at really how good it was. Yeah, Gary Oldman was fantastic as Winston Churchill, and I really don't know much about this period of history. You know, my knowledge pretty much resides in cartography and horror movies. That's about it, and I don't really
just that. Anything else?
I mean, I have a pretty good knowledge of drinks and alcohol. Cats, working out. Malort, yeah. Malort has actually been coming up in conversation maybe every 3 days for a while.
Okay, there's no reason that should be true.
Honestly, I don't know why people keep on bringing it up, but I'm like, well, let me tell you about Malort. So yeah, it was, not my choice. It was the Graveyard Queen's pick, but I wanted to make her happy, so I personally wanted to rent Children of the Corn, but, gotta make sacrifices in the married life.
I would love to sit down and hear all your advice on how to be married.
Let her pick the movie.
We're gonna do a podcast that's just gonna be you offering advice. And it'll just be like, I don't know, man, let her pick the movie. And then some stuff about cartography.
Happy wife, happy life. I don't know. You figure it out.
I'll say it.
So the second thing I wanted to mention was the most recent X-Files episode, which aired last night, Wednesday. There should be one more coming out next week, so I guess 2 days after this airs. This season has been phenomenal.
Has it?
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. Both Fox and Scully are they're just brilliant at what they do. And it's like they're not even trying. It's like they just feel so happy to be back in these roles, and especially with a story that really suits them and the X-Files narrative. They're rocking it. The script, everything that's happening, it makes me happy because they're really going back to the roots, and they're also bringing this forward a bit. They're really bringing in a lot of, who are they as people? What do they want as life? They're not just FBI agents looking for aliens. They are actual people. And continuing into my next segment, we will get back to you.
Man crush.
Obviously, Double D has made Man Crush of the Week. To no one's surprise.
Is it because he's such a sex fiend?
He does have this. Yes, he may be a sex addict, but it doesn't prevail in his characters. Like, yes, there was Californication, and yes, it may have alluded, parallel to his life, and that he really likes to, get down and dirty. But that's not the reason that I like him. I just think he's a great person. I love watching him, and he put on some thick framed glasses in this episode. And I was like, oh man, this guy, he's just rocks everything that he does. And after that, I was like, easy.
Absolutely.
What are your opinions on Double D?
So I never watched X-Files growing up. I feel like he's good looking, but you know who's better looking? Gillian Anderson.
Oh man.
Yeah, like
they are
be friends.
They are so good looking. I mean, just the both of them. It's like one episode, one is better looking than the other. Next episode, it's the other, and it's just a competition. And they're not even trying. It's just standing next to each other. They are just, the level of attractiveness, the aura of attractiveness in that room just increases by the minute.
Ugh. I think there's something to be said. I mean, yes, are celebrities just people like the rest of us? Absolutely. At the same time, is there something that makes people able to stay in the public eye for decades at a time? Like, I do feel like celebrities, especially the more successful they get, have that ability to kind of like charm a crowd, and like that can really happen, I think. And I think both of them are very charming.
Yeah, and especially the things that they do outside of the X-Files. I mean, Gillian Anderson is on, she was on Instagram, and she just did this post with PETA, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And David Duchovny is trying to be like a musician, albeit not the greatest musician, but he's trying. I'm a podcaster, not the greatest, but I'm trying. Me and Double D, are you catching my drift? We're kind of similar.
Basically the same guy.
Exactly. So,
oh man.
But yeah, they're great. All right, Jen, what have you been watching?
Well, I have been, I don't know if regular listeners, all spouses of them, can tell, but I do have a little bit of a head cold going right now. So I have not been watching a lot, but I did the other day sit down, and for the first time since I saw Get Out in theaters, I did sit down and rewatch it on HBO.
Oh, is it on HBO?
It is on HBO.
Okay.
So I decided to watch it. I was like, it was on my list of things that as soon as the Oscars were over, I was going to watch it. So obviously I didn't have time to watch it during the lead up to the Oscars. I was watching tons and tons and tons of movies, but I did not get a chance to watch, to rewatch anything. So I decided I was going to watch. And I have to say, once you kind of know what's happening, you're like, oh my God, there were so many clues the whole time. And I cannot believe like a very, very nice white lady sat in the audience and did not pick up on any of them. Anyway, so definitely I think worth a watch if you haven't seen it. And if you have seen it,
is there an alternate ending? Do you know?
There is an alternate ending.
I want to see that.
You can find it on YouTube if you try.
Yeah. Where it's like that isn't the happy ending.
The ending in the movie is the better ending,
right? Or
the happier ending. Whereas the one, the original one they were thinking about doing is, I'm not saying it's a bad ending. I'm just saying, wow, like you would not. I don't know that the movie would have taken off as much if it had quite as depressing an ending. You know what I mean? I think part of why people enjoyed the movie was that the ending did have this kind of like rush of like, oh no, it's okay. Like, things are going to be okay on some level. Whereas the original ending, I think, was just too depressing. I don't think the movie would have taken off.
Yeah.
So, you definitely should watch it, and then we'll have a chat about it.
Yeah. So, nothing else?
No, not really.
No?
I've been doing a lot of, I've got some podcasts I'm listening to, but nothing new.
Yeah.
My podcast, Ear Hustle, which is, I think I recommended the first season. It is a podcast from San Quentin Prison in California.
Yes, yeah, I have listened to that entire thing. That was intense. Oh, season 2 is on the way, and we have T-shirts. What?
Right. Season 2 started today, or maybe yesterday.
Oh, man.
Today.
What do you think next week is going to be about?
Actually,
no, like I meant like our podcast.
Listen to the preview.
Like we're going to just talk about another podcast.
I got you.
Because that's what our podcast is.
I did understand you.
So.
Perfect.
That's awesome that they have a new podcast out. That was intriguing. It's a very unique podcast because
you still there? You just like cut out.
Oh, I did?
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Oh, the Graveyard Queen was actually just in here dusting. So that may have done it.
Did she dust for the specific purpose of ruining it?
Maybe. Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, now you're
okay.
That's too funny.
So, but yeah, this podcast is very, for people who don't know, and I don't know if we talked about it, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate. It's a podcast produced by people that are in prison. So it's like they don't really have anything better to do. And what did they talk about? I don't remember.
So, they talk about a lot of different stuff. They talk about, your cellmate, the food available. It's just kind of about their lives in a very kind of real, raw way. You just don't, I have to say, I don't have any family members that are in prison, at least. So it's just kind of an area that I just don't know as much about. I just don't know kind of a lot about the day-to-day and you hear a lot of jokes on TV or that kind of thing, but you don't really know what's going on there. And I thought it was really interesting to
especially for people like ourselves who listen to a lot of podcasts and put a lot of value on these podcasts, and so it allows us to really get a feel for it. It's not like just like a radio segment or something. It's something that we have the podcast community seek out. We go and download these podcasts and listen to them, and we don't just half-ass it because this is something we enjoy. So,
and let me just say, it is interesting as somebody who podcasts and who listens to a lot of podcasts and is currently doing a podcast about a podcast parody.
It's a podcast
I will
about
say,
a podcast.
It's really interesting to listen to a podcast done by people who have not listened to podcasts.
True, yeah.
Because most of the people that they interview in those episodes, I mean, maybe a few have, but the guy who is working on it, the main people in charge, have been in prison long enough that they have never heard a podcast, unless they've never
listened to Serial.
Exactly. So it's just a very different sort of experience. And I think it's, and I think it's an important one. One of the things I am trying to do in my own personal podcasting life is to try to make sure that I have a more diverse group of podcasts that I'm listening to, to try to make sure there are people who have, of different races, of different genders, of different, ability levels. And so, in that process, it's good to hear from people you just don't hear that much from.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amen. All right. So before we get into the A Very Fatal Murder, what was your thoughts on the Oscars?
So I think the Oscars were a lot more predictable this year compared to last year.
Yeah, I should say that I, yelled out loud during a lot of these, and I predicted a lot of them on the spot.
Nice.
So there were a few where I was like, it's going to be Shape of Water. It's going to be Shape of Water. And I was like, I got it.
I will say I did get 18 of the 24.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was not bad. That was, that I had guessed ahead of time.
I presume you watched the entire thing?
The entire Oscars, yes. I was at a party. So, it's always a little bit hard because you want to be at a party, but you also want to listen to the TV, but it's also very hard to be at a party and be like, listen, I need all of you to shut the fuck up and only talk during commercials.
Yeah.
So, there are parts I missed, that I tried to kind of catch at the, in the kind of reverb of the show. But yeah, I would say it was a good ceremony. Jimmy Kimmel is not somebody I'm particularly invested in, but I think he did a pretty good job at the most thankless possible job in the world, which is Oscar host.
Yeah.
You will never make anyone happy. You just have to accept it.
Yeah, I watched maybe about half of it just to get a good feel for them because they're not usually what I typically listen to. But they were, I don't know much about award shows, but it was good. It was entertaining. And, the winners were they deserved it. So, and yeah, I really want to watch Shape of Water, but I had also wanted to watch it before, I watched the awards, but nothing else really sold me. I mean, I still want to watch the new Children of the Corn and the new Happy Death Day above all else. So, but
absolutely, and you'll get to.
Yeah. All right. So this A Very Fatal Podcast Murder. You had mentioned this, and I was in an airport for an hour, and I was like, I want to finish this week off on a good note. And
Let me just say, when I got the message from you where you were like, listen, Jen, I need to know what the name of that podcast is. And it just so happened I was at lunch staring at my phone, and I get this message, and I was just like, oh, yes, beautiful, wonderful. Like I said, I will always drop everything to help somebody connect to a murder podcast.
Goddamn right. Yeah, so I was in an airport, and I was like, I'm going to be sitting here for a while. And so I looked this up, and I was like, holy shit, 10-minute episodes? This is awesome. And I was like, oh shit, I could listen to this entire thing. It's awesome. And it just made it a lot it made it really fun. The wait
Absolutely.
there, because it was really short, and the first 5 minutes it was difficult to sit through because this is an Onion produced podcast.
Yes.
And in my opinion, Onion articles don't get very far past the headline, but that's what they excel at, the headline, and getting you in. But I was hooked within 5 minutes of the first episode.
I mean, you can definitely tell that the people who produced this, love the genre.
Yes.
Are fascinated by the genre.
And they have listened to all of the popular podcasts because they are pulling tropes from all of them. And you're like, I remember when I heard this. I remember when they heard this.
Absolutely. It was, I would say, just in terms of how on point was it? It was pretty on point. You definitely get a bit of Serial, you get a bit of, oh my God, what was that one we did?
Dirty John. There was
Dirty John. Not Dirty John, the one we did before that.
There were 2 seasons of Serial. The one with the Asian girl and the one with Bo Bergdahl.
Yeah. I will say, I think it also, you got a little bit of Dirty John, but most, it also, one of the ones that he definitely was, playing off of is, there is a current podcast called, Atlanta Monster.
S-Town. There was S-Town in there.
S-Town is the other one.
Yeah.
So it reminded me a lot of the Atlanta Monster guy, who, first of all, his first name is Payne, Payne, which is, of course, it's such a perfect name for a guy who does a podcast about murders.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's almost absurd.
How do you present these podcasts every single week? And I'm like, I've never heard of this. And I go to this website and it's like, this is a very well-produced podcast. I just don't understand you.
I listen to a lot of podcasts.
I thought I listened to... I still stand that I listen to more podcasts than you. But every single week you're like, no, fuck you, I listen to more.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it.
Every time I download a new podcast, I'm just like, how can I use this to fuck Kyle? Just kidding. How will I use the Gorehound opener? The thing is, I think, there's so many great podcasts out there, and it's harder at my new job. I just switched jobs. It's a little early to pull out the podcast.
Yeah.
So I have
within the first hour, you already got your headphones on.
Right. Well, and that's part of it is I would right now I sit next to some real, how do I put this nicely, sales jobs, and I would like to block them out, but
Understand.
Yeah, haven't gotten a chance yet. So I'm actually a little bit behind on my class, but I did clear everything so I could listen to this podcast because it is pitch perfect.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us kind of the outline of what happened?
Yeah, before we go, half hour into the podcast, this podcast, A Very Fatal Murder, is a spoof of a lot of the popular podcasts, of which we've already mentioned, S-Town, Serial, Season 1, Serial, Season 2. So if you're a fan of those, and you like, people making fun of them, also, this is perfect. So in this podcast, a reporter basically goes to try to find the most perfect podcast murder to investigate, and it takes them to this, real podunk town with a lot of weird characters, and then he weirdly gets involved, and then the story ensues, and you realize, oh, it's not who you thought it was from the get-go, and he's just making all these conclusions. And it's very funny, the way that he is making all these connections and the way that he gets involved, the way that he will, direct the conversation from him and onto himself, which isn't really something that you see in podcasts, but you could very easily see the connection as to where is he pulling these ideas from? Why is he doing this? Because the way that these original podcasters are talking, it's like, yeah, I could see that. So it is,
absolutely.
Yeah, it is a spoof. It is the Onion producing this, but at the same time, they did really well on this.
I mean, you definitely have a little bit of that, NPR, et cetera, going on there, where you've got...
Especially the intro music. You hear the intro, and you're like, wow, they really got this going. And it really jumpstarts the episode. You're like, okay, I'm in this. I know it's a spoof, but at the same time, okay, yeah, I'm in.
every time they make a joke about how he's from New York and he just doesn't even understand what their small town living is like.
Even though it's not that different.
It's basically the same thing.
Right.
And I think that's what, but it's very on point because a lot of times, listening to podcasts, even as much as you or I do, you hear, there's definitely a well-known, sort of upper crust type who, you're kind of stereotypical NPR host, probably from the East Coast, probably from, an urban area who, doesn't necessarily know.
Yeah, because if you weren't listening to any of the context or any of the actual stuff that they're saying, you're like, okay, this guy is from NPR. Wouldn't even take it for granted, or you would just assume that they're from NPR because this is a very well-produced podcast. This isn't, produced in somebody's, back room like us where we're just a headset and a microphone. It's really well done. And you could, because even when they're interviewing people, you're like, okay, he is right there. There's a microphone or a voice recorder somewhere. You're like, wow, yeah, he's really doing it. And that's not just like, some guy ranting in the room. No,
they spared no expense in terms of sending him to this podunk Ohio town for 10 years, and you really hear it in the quality of the podcast. Like it's pretty great. Like, that people are listening to this podcast to, listen to a lot of podcasts. I have to say, I think one of my favorite moments is when he's interviewing the family and they're crying about their daughter, in part because he's prodding them too.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Can you read this this commercial?" And it's for a box.
Right.
And I swear to God, I fell over because there are so many commercials on podcasts. I mean, not our podcast, because
and for the record,
we want to be of the people. But.
For the record, I wanted to do this a while ago, where I would come up with these spoof advertisers just to throw them in there, and I was like, oh my gosh, they did it so much better than what I had even imagined, which was this original idea.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and this because I texted this to you in the first episode where they're like, and can you please read this promo code? And it was Haley, and they are interviewing the parents of the recently deceased Haley, and the promo code is Haley, and it's just, what a perfect connection. Because these podcasts are always throwing these promo codes out, and even I had tried to enroll in one of these promo codes when I was trying to buy a mattress, because I wanted to buy a Casper mattress, and I wanted to use, the reply all, promo code. I eventually didn't because for some reason. But yes, it's exactly it.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just gave Casper free advertising. They're not paying.
Well, I actually went with Ghost Bed because, Sleep Like the Dead is a pretty good catchphrase. Get Gorehound on board. So.
Well, as long as you had good reason.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, and, there's not much to talk about this podcast because the story doesn't really go that deep. It's kind of like an SNL episode where it's like each of these episodes are really great in itself. They're very predictable, but at the same time, I was really looking forward to seeing what Calloway was going to be. I knew it wasn't going to be what was expected, but I was very eager. I was like, I really want to know what's this, catch. Yeah.
And I have to say, I think they've got it. I mean, part of the problem is every time you try to come up with one of these kind of season-long, we're going to investigate a murder, the problem is that, people come to a podcast and in some ways they kind of expect it to be a Law and Order episode. They think we're going to, find the killer. The killer's going to just, confess everything, and then we're all going to feel better. But the problem is, of course, in real life, that's not how that happens. Even if you get somebody, even if on some crazy, thing, think about, the only time you really ever see that is, I don't know if you ever watched The Jinx, which was that was a TV show, or a limited miniseries, rather. And it was where they had investigated this murder, and they finally actually got the guy to confess, but it wasn't because they were somehow great at, getting him to confess. It was just him mumbling to himself in the bathroom, So, like, but even then, it's not like he just, like, went to prison, It's like, he still had lawyers and, his lawyer was still, like, in the room while this was all happening. So, it's just kind of interesting because I think one of the ways in which, the parody is the best is that you don't get an answer. Like, he spends the whole series going after Calloway and saying, okay, it's got to be Calloway. Look at all these clues that lead Calloway. When he finally gets to Calloway, he just finds that there's no way. Like, he just could not have done it. He could not have been responsible. And it's the same thing. It's like, well, in the end, you can spend all your time chasing after who you think it is, but you're probably not going to get a good resolution,
Yeah, and as we have mentioned in the previous podcast, a lot of the popular podcasts don't have a very good ending. I mean, Dirty John had a very satisfying ending, but Serial, it didn't. It was
No.
it really fell flat at the ending. Not to take away from the value of the entire podcast, but
oh sure.
And this one really did have
But
a
it's still,
fun
and it's still,
ending.
that's the thing. Would you get the occasional Serial update where not through the podcast, but just in real life, where they're like, oh, by the way, this is going back to trial, or this is getting reopened, or whatever. But it's like, in real life, you don't just get 12 perfect episodes, and at the end, everybody's happy. Like that's just not how that works.
Yeah, so if this was a more realistic thing, I think it would have been funnier to maybe just end it abruptly and just be like, yep, and we couldn't find the guy, so we just decided to call it off. Because that would be funnier.
But in the end, what did we get instead? We got a long-winded monologue about how, really, in the end, like, the podcast did what it was supposed to.
Yes.
It, got him downloads. And, in the end, we're all sort of responsible for her murder and the fact that she's not, living as a podcaster, and really isn't that kind of true.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, to me, it was really interesting to see that unfold, because I think, ultimately in the end, how are you going to end your podcast? You can't produce a killer, you can't produce an ending. So, you have to have a monologue about how really, what killed Haley was,
our desire for a good podcast. Yeah. And the monologue really did a slam dunk on it and just really did a conclusive ending where it really broke apart from, we are an Onion article to this is, it is breaking into the real culture of podcasting.
Absolutely. I'll say they did. I don't know if you actually looked at like the descriptions of the individual episodes on your podcatcher.
No.
But so, for instance, there's one episode that's broken into two parts, like episode 5, and so it says, this one's going to be a long one as we explore, and then of course it's 10 minutes long. And
right.
I thought this was,
and all of them are about 10 minutes,
thing.
And that made me so happy because sometimes I'm like, does it really need to be split between 2 episodes? And they did it, and they actually didn't. It was just like, that's perfect.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, now having listened to this, does it make you want to listen to more murder podcasts?
I don't know, because I have, ventured into a few just random murder podcasts, and my taste in podcasts is evolving, I might say, because before I used to listen to just mindless podcasts, just like science podcasts, interview podcasts about just people, because I'm finding that I really like to just listen to people talk. But now I'm finding that I'm liking more entertaining podcasts. For instance, I listen to a lot of 6 Foot Plus, which is basically like the horror punk surfer rock podcast, where they just it's like horror.
None of
it's
those
like
things even go together. You're just making stuff up at this point.
Topic for another podcast. But I listen to this 5 times a week because it is it's entertaining, and just that's what works for me. And so I'm finding that I'm really clinging on to things that I really like, stuff that I could listen to for 5 days a week. And so I don't see myself venturing out into any more serial or murder mystery podcast unless there's something that really brings me in. Like if this is a crossover podcast, I would check that out. But I don't, because as funny as this is, like SNL is hilarious. I will watch SNL, but I'm not going to watch, CNBC. Of their SNL makes fun of CNBC or something like that. I'm going to watch the spoof of it, but not the actual
content.
content.
To say, do you believe CNBC is one of those SNL long-form movies that no one likes?
I'm using CNBC as an example, like Fox or CNN, where it's just another, form of politics that SNL will spoof. We don't all watch these, but we know, Fox is conservative, CNN is liberal, and SNL will, wow, I just threw out a whole bunch of abbreviations there. SNL will, make fun of all of them. We may not watch all the content from which they are deriving their, comedy, but at the same time, it's like we understand it. And so, I don't know. Am I rambling right now?
Yeah, but I love it. I mean, isn't that the point of podcasting in the end?
It is. I've been actually finding myself this week. The podcast has stopped, but my headphones are still in my ears, and I'm still getting enjoyment out of it. I don't understand it, but at the same time, I'm like, this is what is making me happy right now, is the illusion that I'm actually listening to a podcast.
First of all, that's super crazy. But second of all,
I think I'm just going insane.
Yeah. I do sometimes, I'll leave my headphones in after my podcast has stopped, for those 4 minutes that I let myself be alone with my own thoughts. But I do generally, that's more a laziness thing than a physical enjoyment. I think my physical enjoyments are more like regular people's physical enjoyments.
Yeah. All right. What else are you thinking about this podcast? Not our podcast, the All New Culture Cast, but A Very Fatal Murder.
No, the way better podcast. I think it's important in terms of it was really interesting. Let's go off a little tangent. I saw, when I was kind of Googling around, I saw an article. Who was it?
Oh, probably about Fox. How is this the death of serial killer podcasts?
Yes.
Yeah.
And obviously the conclusion was no. But I think that's interesting that a lot of times when we see spoofs, or whatever, we think, okay, well, this is pointing out kind of the flaws and foibles of the genre.
Like Scary Movie. Scary Movie really moved horror movies in a direction where we can't be so 90s. We actually have to, maybe move it forward, or we have to do something different, and because there are these tropes that we keep on replaying that are being replayed so much. And we're getting
called out on.
So let's do something different, and then we see Saw, and it's just like, holy shit, that's different.
Right.
So.
Right, no, and I think if anything, it reminds people making these murder podcasts, okay, people are listening, don't just fall into the easy rhythms of what you can do. Mm-hmm. Come up with new material, don't get stale. I think it can only improve the genre. And I think in much the same way that, I watched this interesting video the other day on, I'm not going to remember. It was on YouTube, but I want to say it was off of, I'm going to say Vox, but it probably wasn't. But anyway, it was talking about, kind of the death of romantic comedies. Because in terms of a genre, 5 or 10 years ago that was making a ton of money and is now making much less money. And they were like, well, is the genre dead? And, their ultimate conclusion was, no, the genre isn't dead. The rom-com movies aren't as popular anymore. But that's because a lot of the kind of romantic comedy is going to television. So I think in much the same way, something can become very popular. It doesn't mean it's the end of it. It just means it shift a bit.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if this encourages us to go back to TV for our murder love, or this, what will be the ultimate, what will be the ultimate path from it. But it'll be interesting to see how this affects the genre, or doesn't.
Yeah, and as much as it sucks, I'm going to be a follower for whatever happens, because these podcasts aren't very, there aren't a whole lot. So, what is it, 3 movies are released every single week in theaters or something like that? We get one big podcast, every 2 months or something like that. So I'm still going to, be desperate and starving for these popular podcasts, of which we, will always review on the All New Cultcast. So
keeping content fresh.
Yeah, and so I'm going to keep on listening to these. But do I really care where it goes? Not really. Until we start to see, we have 2 new big podcasts being released this month, and I have to decide between one of these 2. I'd be curious to see where my decision lands.
Well, as a side suggestion, why not listen to both of them and just not go to work for a little while?
Yeah. That would be a dream if I could just, like, I'm just going to sit on my couch, hang out with my cat, drink some tea, and just listen to podcasts all day. Yeah.
I love it.
Oh, my gosh.
I will say, and this is something I don't know if I've ever mentioned on the podcast before, but I actually will not listen to murder podcasts at home.
Yeah.
I only listen to them in my car or on, or at work.
Yeah.
I won't listen to them at home because I don't want to be in that mindset where people get murdered.
I wouldn't know because I don't listen to these crazy podcasts that you listen to. I listen to crazy music. You listen to crazy podcasts.
I would say a good 40% of the music you listen to is just made up on the spot for the purpose of confusing you.
Oh, man. You want this crazy podcast about the Gorehounds musical genres to happen, don't you?
You know what?
Because you're just waiting to just tear me apart and just kick me and beat me down, and you're like, none of this exists.
Have you ever considered a podcast just me yelling into a microphone like, they were all the same song?
It's as soon as I get more time on my hands, I'm going to do this. Because there have been a few things on this, not just the podcast, but on the blog in general that I've been wanting to do. One in particular was the Gorehounds Guide to Podcasts. Because I've got this running list of podcasts that I've tried and podcasts that have, still held up. And so, like, I'll cross it off if, like, I listen to, like, 3 episodes and I'm just like, this is bullshit. Because I, like, give, podcasts 3 episodes before I'm like, I'm not really interested in this. But then the ones that stay through, I put a star next to them. And so I feel like from this working list, for a few years, I've got a pretty good idea of what are the good podcasts. But at the same time, I'm like, there's a big section of podcasts that I just don't listen to. That, for instance, murder podcasts. So it has to be the Gorehounds Guide to Podcasts because, this is pretty much strictly my opinion without any academic value to these. It's pretty much, what do I like and what do I not like? So that's been one of them that I've been wanting to do. And I'm thinking I might as well do a podcast about it because, why not?
And that is definitely true. Like, I've heard there are sports podcasts. Yeah. Do I know anything about them? No.
Sports.
I think one of them is from Slate, but I only think that because podcasts talk of, if there's one thing one commercial that podcasts love, besides, of course, boxes, is podcast commercials for other podcasts.
Yes. Yeah.
I have to say the best one they had on A Very Fatal Murder was the one where it was 2 guys sitting around eating bagels and talking about the news. Yeah. And I was like, listen, that's dumb. And I would also listen to it.
I know, right?
If it was produced by NPR.
Give me the link.
I'd be like, okay, I need to learn about these things.
Yeah. I actually remember there was one Slate podcast that I tried to give a shot, but I'm looking at their list of podcasts and I'm just like, oh gosh, this is bullshit. All right, where are we at?
Just, like, emotionally?
I don't know. What's on your mind?
I have to say, I don't know if The Onion's ever done a podcast before, but I would love to hear their spoofs of other types of podcasts.
Yeah, because this really breaks outside of, their single-line headline articles. I mean,
exactly.
I don't know if they're making any money on this, but I know I'll look at The Onion occasionally. I maybe visit their website once a month.
Uh-huh.
But this, I was stuck to it. Well, for the hour that it kept me entertained.
Right.
So, all right. Anything else on your mind?
No, just everyone should listen to it, and then they should listen to the murder podcast, and then they should talk to me about the murder podcast. Yes. Just send us an email if you know what our email address is. I do not.
Nick can butt in right here. If he was actually on the podcast, he would say.
Like, is he even listening? Like, listen, buddy, your paternity leave is over. Like,
yeah. Nick, if the Nick is listening, maybe add a comment to whoever's shared link with the email so that all of our listeners can check it out.
I love the idea that it will just be talking about something and then suddenly it'll be like, ba-da-da-ba-da-ba-ba, and it's Nick. You know what? People would love it. They miss it.
That would be a good that would be a little great sound clip. Just Nick saying the email address because we're too lazy to ever remember it. Or we are too lazy to actually get it up on iTunes. Because frequently, it happens maybe once a month. People are saying like, oh, try to look up your podcast, but I can't find it. And I'm like, I don't care.
Are all of those people Thor?
No, I told I was working in Kansas City for a little bit, and I told people about the podcast, and I'm like, you're never going to be able to find it. Because, like, as much as I love this podcast, we don't give it half as much thought as we should, and, like, really put it out there. I'm sure we could, but at the same time, we're just like, makes me happy.
So what are your goals long term for this podcast? Will we one day have an onion spoof of our podcast?
No, we're just going to get better and better. I thought that our lineup of podcasters would grow and grow and grow because I was like, oh, Kiwi's joining us. Oh, Cuz is joining us. I thought eventually, and Thor was joining us. So I was like, are we going to have like 6 people on this podcast? I was like, holy shit. But as you can see, it's pretty much just been me and you. So that expectation did not get verified. I would love it if we could do in-person podcasts more often.
Yeah. Oh, we should.
That would, because I was thinking for the 100th that we could do a live podcast of something animated bunny-themed movie.
You know what? Absolutely.
There is one with James Corden coming out, but I don't think that will be out on DVD.
Oh, no, that's definitely still in theaters.
Right. And we're, I think, like 4 episodes out. And so I really don't want to get, like, some, like, Christian Easter Bunny animated movie.
Whereas I super want that.
I mean, maybe, if we're desperate. But, like, it has to be a bunny-themed animated movie. And Easter is right around the corner, so it's, like, it should happen.
Yeah, no, guys, if you know any animated bunny movies, tweet at us at The Real Donald Trump. Yeah. No, just kidding.
So, all right. Well, yeah, let's close this bad boy out until next week. I am the Gorehound.
And I'm Jen.
And we are the all-new CultureCast. Catch you next week.
You've been listening to the all-new CultureCast. Check out our blog at znculturecast.wordpress.com. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Follow us on social media. Theme music by bensound.com. The all-new CultureCast, a saltwater production. Original material copyright 2018. Thanks for listening.